For 6 weeks, the University of Arkansas will be hosting 25 young Africans who have been selected by the Barack Obama administration to have an experience in the public management sphere. This is their experience so far.
Hey all, my name is Tiamo Kiakabetse from Botswana. I work from the Ministry of Health in the Sexual and Reproductive Health Division as coordinator for maternal and newborn health. I'm basically responsible for preventing women from dying due to complications of pregnancy.
Hello, my name is Yababer Bounini. I'm from Côte d'Ivoire. I'm a legal advisor and I work for the Truth and Reconciliation Commission.
Hi everybody, I'm Pete Carstens. I'm from Namibia. I'm employed by the Ministry of Labour and Social Welfare. I am responsible for the Irongo region as head who coordinates the matters of the ministry in that region.
Hi, my name is Nathan Ngai. I'm from Senegal, West Africa.
My name is Conrad Dupin. I'm from Benin. It's a republic in West Africa. And I'm proud and it's a great pleasure for me to be here on behalf of the youth of my country.
Hello, good people. My name is Lily Adenoa Asari. I'm from Ghana, West Africa. I got to know of Yali through a mentor.
My name is Mohamed Abdurrahman Al Hassan. I am from Mauritania. I am an English and Arabic teacher at a high school, public school. I know about Yali that a friend of mine called me. She is an American lady who used to be an executive secretary of the American ambassador in Nouakchott. She called me and told me there is an initiative by the President Obama and you should try to and you will be selected. So I just tried and I was selected and I was happy about that.
Hi, I'm Paola Yiga Fokum from Cameroon. I'm a research assistant with the University of Buea. I'm here in Arkansas for the public management track.
My expectations really are to take the experience back home to get to see how I can improve health system to prevent women from dying from preventable causes of maternal mortality.
When I come from the Yali, my expectation is about gaining skills in leadership, because I think I'm a good manager but not a leader, because a leader is someone who has a vision. So I'm here to have a lot of tool skills in leadership, and I want to know how to monitor my peers, how to monitor people in my job area, conflict resolution, in transitional justice.
So one of the guys who founded a youth group, Swakopmund Youth of a Vision, which landed me the position as district coordinator of the Swapo Party Youth League. Swakopmund Youth of a Vision is a youth group with the mission to foster youth leadership and mentorship. And based on that, I would like to take the experiences that I get from here and go and mentor young people and to foster and enforce the little bit of leadership that is going on around there. That is what is lacking.
When I will come back in my country, Côte d'Ivoire, I want to create a monitoring program about reconciliation, and I also want to work on community resilience, because my country is a post-conflict one, so we have a society in transition, so it's important to work on how people overcome that situation, how people think about the future, and how to build the brightest future for my country.
Hi, this is Mitsuku. I'm from Ethiopia and I teach anthropology at the Department of Anthropology in Mekelle University, Ethiopia. I am part of the YALI initiative and I'm based at Arkansas University with my fellow Africans. One of the best things that I have learned here is sharing experience with fellow Africans with different experience and different background. Right now we are doing on a capstone project, and I am looking to the final project and share with my friends. And I'm also eagerly waiting for the presidential summit at Washington.
My name is Ama Kwao. I come from Côte d'Ivoire. Côte d'Ivoire is in West Africa, and for those who don't know, Côte d'Ivoire is the first producer of cocoa. I'm an engineer in statistics and economics, and I work in the cabinet of the Minister of Higher Education and Scientific Research of my country. I'm very happy to be here in the country of some of the greatest leaders in the world, and my expectation is to learn more in order to be a very good manager in the public administration of my country. Thank you so much.
I'm Ivan Collinson, and I'm from Mozambique. I'm currently the Deputy Registrar at the Eduardo Mondlane University there, which is the oldest university in Mozambique. I'm pleased to be selected to the YALI program, and I intend to learn, to share experiences, and to connect with amazing people that were also got selected to this program.
My best outdoor experience was when I visited the library of Fayetteville, and I was very impressed because this initiative came from the community. They worked together, they looked for the financial support together, and today this library is there for children, for youth, and for all people, and for us international students too.
My best outdoor experience was when I volunteered to assist the veterans who were coming into Arkansas to their games. It was so exciting because I actually saw the zeal in these old men who had experienced the 2 wars, and who actually came in with one leg, one hand, ready to show their talents. In fact, it gave me much inspiration.
When I was last day in the Battlefield Center for retired people, I got a very things, and I learned more about this. I think in Africa, particularly in my country, the most of people who have retired don't have any occupation, don't have anything to do. That's why the most of these people suffered depression earlier. I love these people because they share their actions, they want to know, they are curious until now. Last day also, we was to the kayak, and it's a nice things that I see on TV, and I realized my dream to do it in my first time here in Arkansas.
My name is Aleta Gde. I'm from Ethiopia, working in Walaiyat Sodo University as an assistant lecturer, and now here I'm in Fayetteville, Arkansas. My expectation when I came here was like, I was thinking individuals are like autonomous and they don't have time to talk and to share their idea, their culture in US. But I found people in Fayetteville especially, they are so friendly, they're kind, and this is one thing that I would like to appreciate. And I had actually one cultural shock. Like I saw one girl, like her color just looked like Ethiopian, and I was trying to greet her, and I was allowing my hand to shake her hand. Unfortunately, she denied her hand. This is one of my experience.
My experience so far in Fayetteville, Arkansas, has been great. I think it's hard after only 3 weeks to evaluate how a community behaves. But I feel the most impressive thing about Arkansas, in Fayetteville actually, is how people are cordial to each other, which is something that impressed me, and I really appreciate it.
Good Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Labahan Marapula, and I am here with the amazing Washington Fellows of the Young African Leaders Initiative, who have been selected by the President of the United States, Barack Obama himself. I will let the panel actually introduce themselves in all their various industries and what they're here for. I will start from this end, and then we'll go on to this side.
Thank you so much. My name is Elhaj Abougay from Senegal, French-speaking country in West Africa. I'm founder and manager a company in my country.
My name is Carla Carvalho. I'm from Cape Verde, West Africa, Portuguese country, and I'm teacher and I'm studying gender issues and development.
My name is Mfon Ekpo. I'm a maritime lawyer from Nigeria, also an author and an entrepreneur.
My name is Erin Tumba. I'm currently a banker with Citigroup DRC, and I'm a researcher in the field of international relations, specifically on the focus of regional integration.
Fatma Bazahi is my name. I'm from Kenya, East Africa. I'm a sub-county medical officer of health, and basically I'm dealing with the health matters.
My name is Clara Okoring. I'm from Nigeria, and I'm the head of organization of an international NGO called Youth for Transparency International. And I'm an ambassador to the United Nations, also representing this NGO. Aside that, I'm a trained social worker, a gender activist, and actually a political analyst, amongst others. Thank you.
It is quite clear that we have quite a lot of powerhouses in this house, but if there's one thing that we have in common, if there's one thing that these young leaders have in common, is a passion for Africa and a willingness to drive it forward. So what we're going to be talking about today is what is the biggest challenge that is facing the next generation of African leadership. Of course, all of them are going to be talking about the issues that they feel they're most passionate about and what they are more they know more intimately about. So I will start with Clara. Clara, what do you think is the biggest challenge facing the next generation of African leadership?
It is the youths finding themselves that is the biggest challenge. We need to start showing people how to accomplish things. That brings me back to importance. What do I mean? Relevance. How do we make our countries relevant? Talking about agriculture, talking about employment, talking about everything to add social value for national development.
So, Clara, tell us a little bit more. You mentioned agriculture. We'd like to know a little bit more on that. What do you think is the next challenge, the biggest challenge in that particular field with regards to agriculture?
I know it shocks a lot of people for an activist to talk about agriculture, but it actually is an avenue to create employment, because as we know, unemployment is one of the biggest problems in most African countries. Using my country, Nigeria, as an example, where we have over 40 million unemployed youths, and that is 56% of the population of the youth and the workforce. So agriculture is the alternative oil of the future. It just doesn't create employment. It just doesn't create a flow of income. It just doesn't improve national development. It also synthesizes and harnesses the potentials and strengths of other African countries. So why agriculture, people would say, eventually oil reserves will go down because population will increase. Now, food never goes wrong. Everybody eats. So we need to ensure that the youths of a future, the future leaders, starting with us as we are here in this studio today, should talk about agriculture. The stigma behind agriculture is such that should be changed. These are stereotypes. It is believed that people in agriculture are maybe least educated, or they're illiterates, or they're jobless, but the truth about it is that the wealth of the world lies around certain economic values. What are we saying? The world's richest men are usually farmers, as we call it. So what do? Youths in every country should get into the agri field, be it for the sake of importation, be it for the sake of sustenance, be it for the sake of employment, gainful employment. Whatever it is, agriculture will help the future. So that is my emphasis. It is linked to every other thing because poverty is a world problem which must be addressed. You need to be alive to fight politically. You need to be alive to talk about social development. You need to be secure financially to even have the guts and the voice or to be seen to go for a political office. So that is what agriculture means to me.
Thank you very much for that, Clara. We will then take it over to El Haj, who will enlighten us a little bit on what he believes are the biggest challenges that are facing Africa's young leaders. El Haj, tell us a little bit more on what your insights are.
Thanks again, Lebo. I would like to talk about governance, okay? Governance, local governance, national and international governance. Good governance. What is good governance for young African? Okay, we have to figure out what is the most good governance in our country and in our continent. So what I would like to say is we have first to define exactly what is for us, for our people, the right and good governance for them, not for ourselves. Okay, our leaders have some mistakes, and we have, of course, to define these mistakes, to challenge it, and to find another good way, and not just to follow them in this political way.
I would like you to be a little bit more specific on what areas exactly of governance actually, that you think are problematic specifically in Africa. Would you like to share a little bit more on that?
Yes, of course. How many presidents actually want to be modify the constitution to be candidate in the next election? This is a problem, and this is a roots of a lot of our problem in our country. But we have to lock the constitution, the population constitution, and the power have to be the population power, not the president or the government power. This is one issue. And the second one is the governance, the leaders have to give a lot of information about the tools governance. They have to give understanding and make the population to really understand what is happening when they work.
I think Eric here has also more insights on governance as well. If you don't mind, Eric, what do you think are huge governance hiccups that we're facing in Africa today and will probably face in the future?
When it comes to governance, we do have major issues. I will say that Africa has been plagued with dispute over legitimacy of the leaders. Most of the case, this was the result of long-standing dictatorships and fraudulent electoral cycles. That is one thing. And once the legitimacy crisis is usually dealt with, what Africa faces at the governance level is the lack of accountability. You see a growing divide between the policy makers and the policy drivers, the politicians, and the need at the grassroots level. And this has brought about a kind of disenchantment of the people who do not really see what is their stake into the political process. This has created a problem larger than we see, and that will probably have consequences harsher than we can even imagine, because what you have now is a boom in the population, especially the youth, and it's a young population that do not really adhere to any civic or political kind of citizen pact, and is lost in this jungle of governance, or good or bad.
That's very insightful. I know that one thing that it has been in a lot of people's mouths, and people have been saying you cannot drive our continent forward without the youth. But something that is very important as well is youth entrepreneurship. I know that Mfan can shed a little bit more light on that, and what she believes is the challenge there, and how we can address those issues.
Okay, I'd like to address this from another perspective. I know based on our unemployment statistics in Africa as a continent, there was a point at which we were driving entrepreneurship a lot. What we did not tell the youth especially was that there's a process to this. So what we had was a drive or a campaign to tackle unemployment, saying, you know, the youth have to start thinking for themselves, go into entrepreneurship. But there was no training on the process to get to the goal. So what we have right now is a lot of people who have gotten their hands burned, a lot of young people who have gotten their hands burned, a lot of startups that have closed down, and the youth going back to the job dependency, kind of trend because of what they have suffered as a result of running into entrepreneurship. So what I think right now is the biggest problem we face is that we have to retrain the youth on the process of entrepreneurship.
Well, that's actually very insightful. So what more now? I mean, I know that right now Africa has been on a quest for education. So do you not think that the current education system, or what do you think is lacking in that regard?
What I think is lacking in the regard, like you just said, is the practical application of what is being taught. What we have is a lot of theoretical education, as it were. What we need is practical application. We have a dearth of internships, of role modeling, of people being disciplined enough to stay long in a business as young people, to learn from the older generation and say, this is how much time you put into a business. These are the hiccups you're going to find along the way. This is when you fall. I mean, even it's just generally known the world over that in the first 5 years of a startup are when you face the most challenges. Now, as youth, what we want to see is that we want to go into business and we want to start making profits from the first month. And once we don't see this in the first year, the second year we're still trudging uphill. We just throw our hands up in the air and give up the business. What we want to see in terms of education is not the theoretical education that we're doing, which is good, but doesn't really handle the practical aspects. So more things like internship, mentoring. I have launched 3 businesses, and I wish I did not at the time that I did, because I didn't study under people who had done those things to learn from their mistakes. So I had to learn the hard way. Now, a lot of young people don't have the luxury of time to learn the hard way. We don't have the luxury of time as an economy to learn the hard way. So practical application, internships, role modeling, and just being able to stick with the business cycle would work, not just theoretical education.
Thank you very much. I can't say that I agree with you in full. On the issue of education, though, I do think that Carla can actually shed a little bit more light on what the current challenges are, because I believe that these things are all linked together. Everything it's like a domino effect. If the education system is not right, then the youth cannot be right, then the health cannot be right, etc. So Carla, can you shed a little bit more light on that?
Thank you, Lebo. But if you permit me, before I discuss this challenge, I want to share with you the data about our reality. I'm just going to talk about the YALI Fellows countries here in the U of A, in the Arkansas. For example, when we talk about the literacy rate, for example, we have countries like Ethiopia and Benin, which are under 50%. When we talk about population with at least have a secondary school, for example, we just have Ghana, Botswana, and South Africa. They are above 50%. When we talk about population with high education, we just find Nigeria, Cape Verde, and Cameroon above 10%. And finally, when we look to the index of human development of the United Nations, these data showed us just countries like Botswana, South Africa, Namibia, Cape Verde, and Ghana are in the medium position. Other countries of fellows is under lowered position. So I think this data can show us what is the challenge the youth leadership and African leadership have in the future, right now and in the future. And if I can continue, I can tell you, first of all, we have, when we talk about challenge, we have a huge difference between African countries. So, for example, when we talk about the rate to education access, we found some countries in Africa that almost 90% of children and youth are in the primary schools, but we have other countries which is necessary to improve these numbers.
I think in that light, though, we can also discuss a little bit more on health issues in Africa. And I think Fatma can actually, give us more insight on what the challenges are in Africa and what she foresees as being one of the challenges in Africa with regards to health.
Thank you very much, Lebo. One of the major challenges which we have seen, particularly in Africa, it's actually the leadership and governance in terms of the health management aspect. What we are seeing mostly in terms of that aspect is most of the youth are not involved in the decision making in terms of health. So we are pushed backwards, and the ones who are making decisions on the health issues are mostly the ones who have been there previously in decades and decades ago. And another thing which we can see is that there is so much shortage of health workers in most of the African countries, of which we don't have enough obstetric surgeons, we don't have enough neurologists in our own countries. And this makes the health services itself not being accessible to all members, and the responsiveness of the health services itself goes low. Because I can tell you, most of our African countries, we don't have good ambulatory services. So the responsiveness of any kind of health services, it's lagging behind. Other than that one, we should always remember that counterfeits are everywhere in Africa. Medical counterfeits are everywhere in Africa because as Africans, we have a very high poverty rate, and people will always tend to buy the cheapest medicine ever. So the counterfeit ones are always the cheapest, and people always opt for the counterfeit ones. So we need to minimize on the counterfeit aspects. And the last but not least I will talk about is we need to focus on financing our health sectors so that we can be able to improve the health of our people, the health of our youth, the health of our generations and the coming generations, so that they can be able to be educated and lead more areas. Thank you.
Just a quick one, Fatma. Thank you very much. That's very it's quite insightful. Do you think, in your opinion, yes or no, does Africa actually have a chance to have revolutionary medical solutions?
Oh yes, we do. We have brains in Africa, and these brains in Africa are the ones which we brought them to other countries. Other countries, most of the best doctors out there are from Africa. If we can be able to pull them back to Africa, then we are going to have a better health services in Africa.
Thanks, Fatma. We're going to be, I'm going to hand it over a little bit more to Eric, who will talk a little bit more on economy, something that he's very passionate about and he has a lot of insight on, I must say. Eric, what do you think are the challenges of the young African leader right now with regards to the African economy?
Thank you. In terms of the economy, when it relates to young people, we will say that the major factor will be unemployment, because the youth is the majority of what we can call the active forces of economy in Africa. But more than 70% youth, on average, is out of the formal job market. So how do we go about getting more people into the formal job market, knowing that the informal sector has always had a lion's share into the African landscape? One thing that we have missed, and this is also due to the inherited educational framework, is that we have forgotten the vocational training layer. So we've got a shortage of skills that can easily be absorbed into the African labor market. And we have very primary skills and then the very high skilled people. it is a kind of skewed histogram that doesn't really have stability. So the first thing will be to try and reinvent vocational training, but adding to it a local content, because we need to dwell on our indigenous niche market and niche opportunities. This is one thing. One other thing will be to invest in that youth so that it is better equipped to cater for the skill shortages in higher layers of the economy. I cannot emphasize that Africa needs to be more integrated in terms of trade, in terms of mobility of goods, people, and capital, for it to really tap into its true potential. I believe that in terms of economy, it's an open system where we all hold hands. We need, as African, as young African, to try and manage to succeed into shifting from the independence paradigm that our father came with into an interdependence paradigm that will bring us public victory on the global landscape.
Thank you very much, Eric. I was hearing Mfan here nodding yes, yes, yes. So I do believe that, you know, you've got a lot of things right there. I do have to actually now send it over to the audience and ask, you know, if the audience have any questions that they would like to ask our panel over here. Please introduce yourself, and then please share your question with the panel.
I'm Violet Fokum from Cameroon, a researcher on women's rights. My question goes to Clara and to Eric. Clara, what are some of the measures you are bringing on the table to convince these youths to actually enter into the agricultural sector? Why? If a youth graduates with his friends, and while the friend is riding his car and going to an office with air conditioner and uptight suit, you are convincing this youth to go into the farm and start cultivating. What are some of the measures you are bringing to convince him that you are better off than the person who is going to the office? Because the parents have been tilling the soil for years and years and years, and maybe he has not seen any success. Secondly, I have a question for Eric. You talked about accountability. Don't you think legitimacy also is an important aspect? Because if a government is not legitimate, he does not see the value of being accountable to his citizens. Because legitimacy brings the value of you feeling that you have to be accountable to the citizens who put you in that position. Thank you very much.
Clara?
Thank you so much, Violet. You see, people talk about convincing someone, but the state of Africa right now has spoken for itself. It is no more a scenario of someone driving to the office. In the first place, unemployment means there are either no jobs or there are jobs and you have more people who are looking for jobs. So, what are we saying here? Agriculture is my weapon and my strategy, because you don't need an education to farm. You don't need an education to feed. You don't need a boss to give you salary at the end of the month to make your own money. Now, that is minute agriculture. So I will tell you what we're doing. We are sensitizing the youths, unquote, the youths, so that instead of looking for white-collar jobs and wasting away and increasing the crime and violence in society, to get into agriculture. Remember, agriculture has to do with importation, exportation. You have the solid minerals. All those things are under agriculture.
Eric, you have a question that you have to also respond to?
Yes, I'll say Violet is perfectly right. It is difficult to go through political science just in such a short time. As a social realm, it evolves in waves. I try to go quickly through three waves that is the reality of the politics in Africa. You have the independence that have been followed by the wave of dictatorship, which in itself was a crisis of legitimacy. And then for some countries, they've moved away from that dictatorship wave to a wave where the legitimacy crisis has been resolved, but now we start seeing a problem of accountability. I talk of countries like South Africa, countries like Nigeria. It's countries where the legitimacy now is out of the crisis, but there's a problem of accountability. It is true that an illegitimate power will never be accountable, but you've got some country like mine where legitimacy is still in play, the crisis still plays, and there's simply no accountability. But you've got other countries that have moved to the next wave that have fully legitimate political structure, but still struggle with accountability. I said South Africa, I could say Botswana, I could say some others. So you are perfectly right, and both are crucial issues that need to be tackled with full attention.
Thank you, Eric. We have one more question in the audience. Please introduce yourself and then share your question with the panel, please.
My name is Yaba. I'm from Côte d'Ivoire, and my question goes to Ms. Isioma Clara, because you are talking about the agriculture issue. You see that many of our countries in Africa are dependent on imported food. So what do you see as an attempt or solution to address this issue?
Importation is one of the greatest tools of international investment. Now, again, I'm going to use Nigeria, and it is not peculiar to us. We have lakes, seas, we have landmass, but every month, Nigeria spends a minimum of 928 million. It could be billion, if I'm correct, on importation of fish and chicken, okay? Down to vegetables. So that answers the question. Our people, every African needs to go back to their roots. If we can start to make our own food, create employment through agriculture, we will save our countries money. We will now have enough food and sanity to fight different social and political vices. I can assure you that all the problems of Africa are connected to hunger. They're connected to poverty. So let us start fighting the cause and not the symptom.
Thank you very much, Clara. Since we're running out of time, I do actually have to wrap this up. But as a revolutionary leader and young leader, and you guys are actually mostly in the front line, I want to know from you guys your personal challenge and your personal solution that you believe that you could actually implement to actually curb that very issue that you were discussing on. Just, you know, a one-liner would do.
Thank you again. I would like to say two things, please. The first one is Africa. I hope and I really trust about the United Nations of Africa will be very, very important for our continent. We have to stop the North is a country, the South. Look what is happening in Sudan right now. They fight themselves. The second one is our power country has to be the population power, not the individual power. The institution has to be led by the good leader in the good place.
Okay, one thing I think it's one solution is access for all boys and girls to school in primary, secondary, and high school, because these allow Africa to make better their development indicators.
My one solution to entrepreneurship, and that's a hard question because there is no one solution to the problem of entrepreneurship, but one thing I would say that every young entrepreneur has to go through is a 3-stage cycle: discover, develop, and deploy. Now, what I mean by that is, instead of just jumping to the deployment stage, which is what most young people are doing right now, you hear about something, you say, yeah, I'm an entrepreneur, I just want to deploy. You set up shop, incur all this, high, cost of running a business. What you should do is discover, first of all, discover the business, discover about the issues in the community, discover what you're supposed to do as per solution. Then develop, which is where I come to the process thing. Develop by learning from someone, learning on the job, learning by internship, learning by mentorship, before you get to the last stage, which is the deployment. Then you can set up shop. Then you can run your business. Then you will make your mistakes. But it's a cycle because it always comes back to discover. Because once you deploy, you will find out things that you didn't know. It will come right back to discover, then development, then deploy. It's a 3-stage cycle no entrepreneur can avoid. That would be my solution.
As for me, I believe in an Africa that will deal away with strong men and that will dwell forever on strong institutions. The only way to achieve this is to have better equipped citizens, because the better the citizens, the better informed the vote, the better institution will result at the end of the process. So I will personally involve my time and my person to try and educate and raise awareness, especially to first-time voters, because your vote is your future. Thank you.
In terms of solutions, I think I will bias it on the leadership and governance in the health system, of which in that part we will need to strengthen the mechanism of transparency, accountability, and we need to reinforce in matters regarding the intersectoral collaboration, so that we can be able to improve in matters of health more.
So, let there be an agricultural revolution. Let people employ themselves. You don't need to go to school to get involved in agriculture. You don't need to get into school to even feed yourself. You can be a president by employing people when your wealth comes from importation, when it comes from local transactions. What is the bottom line? Food security. Keep yourselves alive. Engage in agriculture, whoever you may be. Thank you.
Well, you heard them, ladies and gentlemen, the young African leaders right here in Arkansas University, and our job today was to keep the conversation going. We thank you very much for joining us. Good evening.
Hi, my name is Bonolo Tebe from South Africa.
I'm Michael Kimbi Chenga. I'm from Cameroon. I'm a civil administrator working with the government of Cameroon, and I'm also a Yali Fellow here at the University of Arkansas.
So we decided to put together a short clip or mini documentary highlighting our experiences. One of the key things for me and one of my big passions is storytelling, and only to find out that Mike had the same vision, shares the same passion, and so we decided to collaborate.
We went visiting the public access television here at Fayetteville in Arkansas, and we just stumbled into this opportunity to have equipment, to have the camera we're using, to have the microphone we're using, and all these gadgets, and we thought, well, this is an opportunity for us to build up on our idea.
I think it's so key to always tell the story, to always document, to always capture moments, because all of that, all the things that we capture will be part of writing our own history as a generation. When our children and our children's children look back to what we've done, they will have something to look at and something tangible that describes and explains the journey that we traveled before them.
We intend this to be like a reference material or some document evidence that people have been here in Arkansas from Africa, and that there is a story about Africa that's being told.
We are very encouraged by this experience and excited about the work that we're going to be doing in our home countries.
And that brings me to the second reason why we did this clip, because we believe that the African story can best be told by just Africans, and having that opportunity to do that and to set the pace just gives us reason to even be more excited about what Yali and the Washington Fellowship for Young African Leaders is going to bring to the entire continent. I hope you enjoyed the clip, and I do hope we're able to stay in touch and keep the African spirit burning.